The Ohio State Buckeyes get a big-time commitment, and can they have the number one class in the country when all is said and done?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Blaine Bradford has committed to the Ohio State Buckeyes. We're going to break down his game, his recruitment, how the Buckeyes possibly get to the number one class, all right here. But let's start with the recruitment of Blaine Bradford. I had a chance to speak with him at Under Armour New Orleans a couple weeks ago. Blaine said, I'm going to take Texas, Ohio State, and LSU visits, take the OBs, and we'll go from there. A to B conversation, very direct, very humble, very honest. We left it at that. He commits on March 31st to the Buckeyes. A kid from Baton Rouge Catholic? That surprises me. I don't care what was trending. I don't care what other people said about it. I had a face-to-face conversation with him at Under Armour New Orleans. He was not looking at it from, I'm just going to commit on a visit or on a whim. Something happened there, and I just want to make a couple basic statements. I did not speak to Blaine since he committed, but this is just what I know. Number one, Ohio State to get a kid out of Baton Rouge, that is a staff effort. I know they just won the national title. It's Ohio State. They got a lot of NIL, all that stuff. By the way, you just lost your defensive coordinator. You're bringing in another one. So there's been change. And they still landed Blaine Bradford. That's very, very good. Number two, this is a kid that they got that can help transcend your DB class. They got Jacob Weatherspoon committed in their secondary. He's a really good player out of Avon, Ohio, just outside of Cleveland. But now, like, good players want to play with good players. Great players want to play with great players. You know what I mean? This is a kid that can bring in guys. He's a top 100 recruit by every measurement, in my opinion, because of his background, his personality, his ability to deal with media and other people. He's somebody that others are going to gravitate towards. I think he's a top 50 recruit. Blaine Bradford is a special young man all around, whether it's on the gridiron or off. This is a huge deal. And it will help them train for the number one class. We'll get to that in a second. But why do I like him so much? 6'1", 200 pounds, give or take, maybe just a little over. And despite his size, some people might say, oh, he's going to end up playing linebacker. Maybe he does on nickel downs or dime downs where it's a situation of 3rd and 9. You could play him in that. But even in a base defense, old school football with a team in the I formation, you could play him at free safety, strong safety, whatever. He'll figure it out. Intelligence first for Blaine Bradford. He knows what's coming. I saw him play last year at OT7. This is a kid that can get off the hash and really run despite his size, and he's somebody that diagnoses the play quickly. Further, it is my opinion from being around him that he's a young man that will make it a lot easier for the other players in the secondary and even the linebacker level to be in the right spot. He has the right kind of personality. He plays at Catholic, which is a prominent program in the state of Louisiana, has been for years. Work Done is from there, among others. They've always got players at Catholic. But this is a kid that is used to competition. He likes to take it on. He will be the quarterback of the defense at Ohio State at some point. I don't know how long it'll take, but I would bet you bottom dollar that he will be. Again, all of those traits together and his personality, he will have people wanting to gravitate towards him. This is a big deal for Ohio State to get it. Now let's talk about the recruitment a little bit. I touched on it, but did I really think that he was going to go to Ohio State? I just figured in the end it would be LSU because it's the easiest pick. That's the low-hanging fruit. I admit that's where I thought he would go because Texas and Ohio State are basically the same program, but they're further away. Not only did he pick Ohio State, he did it again on the 31st of March. That's pretty impressive. Now, can they hold on to him and all that? That'll take care of itself. He had told me he was going to take OVs, but then he commits. I don't know if he will or will not, regardless of what he says right now. Every other school that's offered him is going to still try to get him to take an OV. Georgia or Notre Dame or Southern Cal, whatever. Everybody that's offered him is still going to try to get him to take OVs. We'll see if anything changes, because as coaches move around from one school to the other, anything is possible. But right now, I think it's pretty safe to say the Ohio State Buckeyes did a great job to get Blaine Bradford, and he's not just a good player, he is a great player. So hats off to them. When we come back, we're going to talk about Ohio State's overall class a little bit. How can they get to the number 1 ranking in the country? It's possible. There are a couple keys to that happening, and that is next here on the Portal Podcast. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. With Monarch Money, you can find everything that you need to help you track all those little things that add up and get rid of the money that you want to keep, all in one place on Monarch Money. And if you want, you can also do that same thing with your partner. So your personal goals, all your personal accounts in one spot, easy to get it done and done quickly to save you money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. This is also brought to you by Game Time. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful, and that's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute tickets at unbeatable prices. Curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. And on the app on Game Time, they will have a thing called Game Time Picks. Right there, you just click on it. It'll narrow down the prices for whatever venue you're trying to go to for whatever type of event. Makes it a lot safer and easier to get to where you're going for less money. So one last thing. This is my favorite personal thing with Game Time. You can view your tickets right on your phone, the seat. What's it look like at the pitcher's mound or to the stage, whatever it may be. You can see it right there on the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Two prime things that I think Ohio State needs to do to sign the number 1 class. Quarterback is my biggest concern. Peyton Falzone is a kid's taking an unofficial visit, and I think he's underrated. But based on recruiting rankings, if you want to go by on 3 or 24/7, whatever it is, the young man out of Pennsylvania is probably a little underrated. He's an athlete. He's got some height to him. He can move. He can throw off his back foot, etc. But he is a little raw. Does he end up rising in the recruiting rankings? Yeah, probably. But he's not playing elite competition, and he's not what I would call an Elite 11 guy, meaning like he's not just going to go out there at some event like Elite 11 and just throw dots. He's going to need some time. So if you don't sign a big-time quarterback, can you sign the number 1 class? It's a lot harder. We'll see how that goes. If they don't get him, maybe they flip somebody. Maybe they take this class off. And if they do, they're not signing number 1 class. Number 1 class without a quarterback is almost impossible. But that being the case, there is something else to consider. The Buckeyes have done a pretty good job of signing in-state players to date. Some good players. Weatherspoon, somebody I mentioned earlier, they got some in-state linemen that are really good. And there's a few other guys they'd like to nab. We'll see how that goes. But if they're going to get the number 1 class, the biggest thing they have to do is hit a home run on the official visits. And this is just the unknown. From California to New Jersey, from New Jersey to Miami, and over into the state of Texas, they've got kids lined up for visits. Braden Robinson, kid out of the Dallas area. They're competing with Notre Dame probably. One of the top receivers in the country. He's a slot. He's an electric player. Maybe Ohio State gets him. They didn't sign any elite receiver class this past year. Maybe that's the fit for him. Who knows? But how do the national players that are coming for OBs to Ohio State, much like Blaine Bradford on his unofficial, how do they like it? You never know. That is a massive school. It's roughly 80,000 students. Some guys will like that. Some won't. Some people will like being in Columbus. Some won't. The OBs, when you're recruiting national, you just don't know until you get them on campus. And then, of course, yes, there is always the possibility of the NIL game at the end where it can go one way or the other. I think Ohio State still finishes in the top 7 of recruiting conservatively, but the quarterback position gives me pause. They might be the most volatile of the quote unquote elite programs of where they finish because of the quarterback position. They've missed on a couple of guys, but the room is so deep. I think it kind of scares off a few people. It is what it is. So Ohio State may not end up with the number one class, but their O-line group is tremendous. Their secondary is trending in the right direction. You know they're going to get some pretty good wide receivers. The other spot, just to finish up here, that I think will be interesting, how do they do at running back? The way they utilized their 1-2 punch last year, especially the way Henderson really came on towards the end of the year, I think that's a situation that they can sell, and they can probably get two pretty good backs. We'll see. But anyway, thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. Everybody have a good one. Take care.